and welcome to Create with Shannon, brought to you on behalf of the Fuquay Varina Art Center. Grab your watercolors and a couple of paintbrushes because today we'll be exploring wildflowers using watercolor. So we'll be creating something like this panel here for your relaxation and art project today. I'll see you in the studio. Okay, welcome back. So today you're going to need watercolor paper, and I have cut, this is Canson XL, and it is 140-pound cold press paper, so it has a bit of some texture to it and some tooth to it. I have cut this into a 4x4 square. You're also going to need some watercolor paint, and I've got my messy butcher's tray here that's filled up with other paint that I've used in different projects. So I'm probably going to be using this as we paint today because I've got a good array of colors there. But you can also use any palette that you want, or you can even reach for some of the tube paints that you have. Or if you have decided that you want to work in liquid watercolors, you can pull these too. Whatever you'd like, there's no rules today. You're going to need a little bit of water. I always have a little paper towel nearby so that I can take excess water off of my brush. And you're going to need a watercolor brush. Now this one that I'm using is a round 6. And as you'll notice, this is the one that I use the most often because it's the most versatile brush. And I can get big, large strokes as well as some pretty good details here as well. Now, as you'll see as we get started today, we have 3 steps to creating our panel. And we're going to put in the large flowers first, then we're going to add the stems and the leaves, and then we're going to add filler. So as we get started, you're going to go ahead and get some water on your brush. Just go ahead and get it nice and wet, and then tap off some of the excess water. And you're going to go to your palette. And I'm going to pick up some of this purple that I have here on my palette. And I think I'm going to mix it with a little tiny bit of this pink. Just soften that purple up a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to go to my palette. And I'm going to just put in my first brush strokes for my first wildflower. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can do straight lines, you can do bent lines, you can make it large, or you can make it skinny. It's all right. Remember, as you go into nature, that you see all different types of shapes and colors, and that is what we're going through for here, is just to give you an opportunity to create your very own wildflower patch. And there we go. All right, so that's going to be the outline for my very first wildflower. Now here's where the fun starts. I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick up a little bit more. I'm going to say some dark purple. I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue. I'm going to mix that in so I can just create a really nice darker bluish purple. And I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet here, not terribly, but I'm just going to make it so that it will spread. And then I'm just going to touch it to my leaves, just pull it just a little bit so that it drops a little bit of extra color and extra texture onto my leaf, just like that. And then in the middle, I think I'm going to make this a little bit more blue with a tiny little bit of purple in it. A bit of blue, a little bit of purple, a little bit of wet. Then I'm going to just drop it right into the middle and let it touch that texture that we gave it earlier. And do you see that? We just created a little baby sea turtle right there in the middle of that wildflower. So cute! All right, so I already see where I want to be able to pull a little bit of this color into this wet portion. So I'm taking a very dry brush to be able to pull that in. Now I can also go back and pick up a bit of more saturated color and pop that into my tips here. Bring that down. And if this was still kind of wet, it would run all the way down as I pulled this. Oh God, it's already dried a little bit. Just anything that you want to create some texture here. This is going to be the focal point of your composition. Excellent. Okay, and then a little bit more purple, a little bit more blue. Give just one more dot here in the middle to let that run a little bit and play. All right, so let's move on to another color. And this time I'm going to pick up some pink. And I actually need to add a little bit of pink to my palette here. So I've got some liquid watercolor here. This is Dandelion Paint Company, and the color is just pink. So I'm going to pick that up and just drop a little dot onto my palette here. There we go. And see if I can't play with getting some soft pink colors here. All right, and as you're creating your wildflowers, I want you to remember that when you're working with watercolor, you can either create something that is very soft and almost the suggestion of a shape of a flower, for example, or of some background, or you can create something super crisp and very clear and very detailed. This is your painting, so I want you to do with it as you wish. I'm going to go a little whimsical today. So ultimately over here, I'm going to create another flower, and I'm just going to give it some rounder petals. Just out like this. Pull it together. If your paint happens to touch your other flower and it brings some color into that, that is a wonderful, beautiful experience. So do not fret if that happens. Embrace it. That's the beauty of watercolor, pulling it together. And remember that the level of saturation of your color really has to do with how much water you have on your brush. So if you want a softer color, take a little bit more water in. If you want a brighter color, then try to keep your brush as dry as possible, and then pull in some color, as I'm going to do here in the middle. So you see how I've got that color. It can run a little bit from the center, but it's much stronger color. The value is darker here. And that is from me using a drier brush to pick up that pink color. So pretty. All right, I'm just going to run a couple of little texture pieces out here. And you can already see where some of that modeling is happening and moving around some of the color. It's just so pretty. All right, if you'd like to put another larger flower in, maybe somewhere back in this area or down in this area, you are welcome to do that. I am going to go ahead and show you how to put in the stems and the leaves. So we're going to go in and we're going to pick up some kind of leafy green here. Just going to pick up some color on my brush. And I'm just going to pull in, because this flower should be mostly dry by this point. And I'm just going to go from the point of my brush and I'm just going to pull that down off my paper. And if I feel like, oh, that's a little bit maybe lighter than I'd like it to be, then I can go and I can just pull in a little bit more of that darker color, take a little bit of water off my brush, and I can also mix some other colors in, maybe put a little bit of brown with that. It'll give me a darker value that I can play with. And then I can give my stem a little bit of depth and a little bit of interest, and then put that little leaf in there. I can also change around my color just a little bit and maybe add a little bit of blue to that green and give some interest and a little bit of a different value here. And make sure that I've got a good point on my brush. And then pull in and do a stem here. You can do that where it goes right behind the other petals. You can do that where it goes through a petal. Just pick up your brush and move around. And then I'm also going to add in a couple more stems, and that's where I'm going to put in some of my filler flowers. So this is also what I think is a really fun part, because ultimately I get to set up the foundation and then add something interesting to it. So I've got a couple of different greens working just like we would in nature. A couple of different things coming out from different directions. Then maybe something over here. Then let's go change green. Maybe put in something in this area here. Excellent. Okay, that looks great. And I'm going to take a little bit more water on my brush, and I'm just going to create a nice leaf here. Okay, pick up a little bit more green. Just run that through. Here's the cool thing about leaves. So go pick up a little bit of darker green or even a brown or a yellow and touch it to your paper. And it's going to give these wonderful colors. We'll just run through your leaves and make them look more realistic. So pretty. Just wait, because as they dry, they're going to become even more interesting. Excellent. Okay, now that we've got in a couple of stems, I want to add in just a couple more leaves. Just a couple more, nothing crazy. Just put in a couple of leaves here, or the suggestion of leaves. A little greenery. You can even just lay in some color in different places. Believe me, it'll look right. Excellent. Okay, now that I've got some green laid in, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add in step 3, some filler flowers. And this is where you can use some fun colors. You can use some different shapes and things of that nature. So I'm going to pull in with some nice bright yellow, and I am going to create some little wispy yellow flowers here. Do these really exist in nature? I don't know. They do in my world, so that makes me happy. Let's see, I think I'm going to put some more right here. You can also play with stippling your brush, where you just hold it up and down like this and just stipple the paper and give it something interesting there. Okay, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to change some color here, and I'm going to create, let's say, some kind of fuchsia, a little bit of pink and a little bit of purple together. And I want to create these little dots, and that is literally just taking the tip of the brush and touching it to the paper and putting that. We're going to put those in a couple of areas. Just so happy. Excellent. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a while since I've been able to find time to paint. It seems like when we first went into everything's closed for pandemic mode, this was a great option to be able to get together and have some time in the studio to just create and to find peace and solitude. And it seems like now we're kind of all back at full throttle, even though a lot of us are still working from home and dealing with online school and things like that. And I just find that it's important that we make time to get into our studios or our dining rooms or our bedrooms and just pick up a brush or pick up something and get creative with it. So I'm so proud of you for being here. All right, so now I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to do a couple of things to give my little painting some definition and some interest. I'm going to add in a little bit of depth in some of the colors. We've got some filler flowers in. We've got some beautiful focal flowers. I'm going to go in and add just a little bit to the middle of this guy. And I think I'm going to add a pop of yellow to the middle of this pink flower. It's going to be pretty. Yeah, look at that. Awesome. Beautiful. And then these guys, they flattened out a little bit with their color. So I'm just going to go and pick up a little bit more pink. And I'm literally just going to go in a nice big circle. Give it some color. A couple of areas. Just a little bit of pop. Excellent. And then if you wanted to take something and maybe, I love these and I didn't put one in. Let's do it. So I'm going to get a little bit more leafy green. Leafy green. Pick some of that up. Just like this. And we're going to add it. Let's see, where do we need some balance? You know, we've done a pretty good job on this one, but I'm going to go right here. And I'm simply going to add a little baby stem and 3 little leaves, just like this. And they don't all have to touch. You can leave them, some of them floating. Remember, we're just making suggestions of nature. Here we go. A little bit of texture in there. Ah, those make me so happy. I think I'm going to put another one down here because they make me so happy. There's one. There's 2. There's 3. And now I need to add just a little bit more color. I've got a whole lot of green down there. So let's pick up a little bit of purple. We're just going to create the illusion of some flowers. And pick up a little bit more blue so I can get a nice dark value there. Ah, they're so happy. Excellent. And there you go, my friends. All right, so what are you going to do with your wildflower creation? Take a moment and make sure to contact us, tag us, let us know what you're creating. Thank you again for being here. It always makes me smile to know that we're here painting together and creating together. Thanks again for joining us, and join us for the next Create with Shannon. Have a great day.